We're trying to move maybe 1,500 head, majority of the herd. And it's so big and spread out that it's hard to keep them going in the right direction. So you got the bear tail end back there, they're starting to go over. You're not gonna be able to bring them in today, or at least now. Okay, so we got some buffalo coming here.
This is my favorite time of the year. I've always liked fall. I like working in it. The animals are fat from the summer. They're lazing around in the last dog days of summer. Bison season's ahead, and bison season is a time when we bring an entire buffalo herd in to harvest the animals that we're going to sell for cash flow. There's a huge number of details that all have to be prepared. A lot of moving parts.
The plan today is to move all of these bison. Look like there's about 1,000, 1,200 head here all together. Move them all into this next pasture over here. And spend the next couple of days getting everything into one big herd, so when we make the move, everything's together as much as possible.
When the Nature Conservancy purchased this ranch, we purchased a large bison herd. There were about 2,400 bison on the ranch. And so we made a decision to advertise for a partner who would manage the bison operation in the context of understanding and agreeing that this was a conservation property and the goals weren't going to be like any other ranch. So it was a natural choice for us to pick Duke and his family to help us think through and experiment and learn how to manage this property.
We're managing a bison herd that once lived in the wild with limitless space, that had predators and forces of nature that pushed it around and that made it do what it did. Today, that landscape has completely changed. In our situation, we have limited space, so we have to control the numbers, because if the numbers grow beyond what the land can support, well, then you start damaging the ecosystem.
If your numbers get too high, overgrazing is inevitable. So what we do is, as the rancher, as the shepherd of the land, is to try to act as the predator. There's coyotes, but the coyotes nowadays aren't going to take down a bison. There's not wolves here anymore, so we have to insert ourselves as predators, essentially, and remove the right amount, depending on how we think the land or the herd needs to be manipulated.
Once a year, we gather the entire bison herd because we have to maintain a certain stocking level so that the land isn't overgrazed. So part of our job when we came here was to try to get 2,000 head of bison rounded up into a set of pens.
The bison that are removed from the property are all sold in the marketplace as a high-quality product that helps support the entire operation.
We sell the bison because that's how we keep this going. This has to be a profitable deal.
Financially, the only income that we have is when we sell animals. We have to get these buffalo in every year. There's no choice.
The great bison herds of the mid-1800s had the entire Great Plains to roam in, clear from Mexico all the way into Canada. The sheer scale of the bison herds is almost unimaginable. There are reports of trains stopping up several days to let one herd by.
Somewhere between 30 and 60 million animals is what we think the population was. But between the hunting and the fur trade, by 1880, there were probably fewer than a couple of thousand of them left in North America. We almost lost this species. Today, we've got between 500 and 600,000 bison running around in various ranchlands, farmlands, zoos, and other areas. But what about bison as a wildlife species or as a conservation species? Somewhere between about 10 and 20,000 bison in the world now are strictly conservation bison.
A conservation herd of bison is a herd that's managed to be wild as possible. So the animals are not branded. You don't wean the calves, you don't separate the young animals. You have a 1-to-1 ratio of males to females.
With this ranch here, they're attempting to mimic how it was when the bison had the entire West. And 50,000 acres seems like a big parcel, but it's not even a drop of water compared to what they used to have. So that presents its own challenges.
And so can we match up and make a restoration of bison so that they truly are not just in our past and in imagery, but are really out on the landscape? That's what part of our job is here.
When we assumed management of the Menos Zapata Ranch, we had never been around bison before. And we didn't know anything about gathering bison.
These animals are wild and wily. They have great vision, can outrun a horse for a short distance. They also can jump, and fences that are made to contain bison have to be at least 7 feet tall. So think of an animal that weighs between 800 and 2,000 pounds being able to jump over my head. That makes them a challenge for ranching, because when a bison decides it doesn't like something in front of it, it just pushes through it.
The only way we could get the buffalo in before was chasing them into the corrals. We've been running bison on horseback long enough to where we realize this is not the solution.
What happened? Someone's going to get hurt badly.
We basically figured out a lot better way to do it.
So today we've gotten to where we can now gather most of them, if not 99% of them in, with just brains rather than brawn.
The bison works begins right now with a lot of checking fence. And these are fences that only get used once a year for this time, so they've been sitting propped open. All the gates have been opened up to allow bison, elk, antelope, deer. Everything has free passage when we're not in these 3 weeks or something leading up to bison work. Once all the fence is good, then we start bringing the bison from the northern end of the ranch down to the southern. Slow putting up fences behind them, trying to trap them in a smaller and smaller area as we come south. And then from there, we'll start feeding the bison, caking them, and getting them really used to following the cake truck around.
Buffalo won't move unless there's an animal already going in that direction that you want them to move. So the purpose of the truck is to try to get the lead animal going in the right direction, and then the guy in back kind of coaxes everything along. You're not forcing anything. So you're tricking them into going the right direction with the feed truck, and everything kind of starts following, and that's when Duke can kind of keep them going.
So we drive out into the herd, and over a period of a week or two, we put out maybe 1/4 pound or less per head.
I'm gonna blow the horn. We have a big railroad kind of horn. We're gonna blow that, and that'll get everybody's attention. And then we start feeding a little bit of cake, a little pellet that they all like.
45,000 acres and finding 2,000 or more bison out on the range has proved to be pretty challenging.
This terrain here on the ranch is really flat. Once you get down into it, you can't see because the brush is high. So the airplane's pretty handy. It might seem expensive to run an airplane and all this stuff, but relative to to all the stress and time and money that we used to put into those 8 or 10 days with those people. It's a fraction of the cost and headache. And once we get them in close around this headquarters, we'll use the keg truck and a couple motorcycles, kind of just pushing stragglers to keep up with the herd.
Hopefully they'll all follow and be really ready to go for Saturday morning. We're looking forward to a great year of gathering the buffalo.
I've only worked cattle before. To be that up close and personal with the bison is going to be a lot of fun.
Tomorrow morning, this will all be black with buffalo. So far, so good.
We got one herd that's clear across the road right now. These bison are really stirred up, so give us some space.
Anything can go wrong, you never know.